Hello and welcome back to The Broken Shift. My name is Natalie, and if you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe, because we're going to get right into this. I saw this on the wonderful world of Reddit, and I just had to come talk to you about it. I want to see what you think about this, because there have been too many stories out there where nurses are getting fired for doing inappropriate things, and we talk a lot about what patients do to nurses, but when have you crossed the line with your patient? And in recent months, in the last year or so, I've seen so many nurses that have been fired for TikToking while they're at work, TikToking about their patients' conditions while they're at work, and TikToking while they're doing med passes, catching themselves on tape, making med errors, and saying it's not a big deal, and then getting fired and potentially losing their nursing license. And as nurses, first of all, we're bound by HIPAA. Second of all, as just nurses and healthcare professionals, you're bound by HIPAA. And then second of all, you're bound to do no harm. And here in this case, if you read this on the Reddit, this nurse posted thoughts on patient, or this therapist posted thoughts on patients being offended by badge reel. And what the badge reel is, just like you wear a lanyard and you have, if you don't know, like you have your badge, and then you have a little reel on the back, and hers says, "I prefer my patients sedated," and she works in an IMCU, which is a critical care unit. Listen, and she had a patient tell her that, as someone who has been intubated twice for their asthma, almost losing their life one of those times, I just don't think that's very appropriate for an IMCU setting. Absolutely, it isn't. You are, again, speaking to your patient. This is not like saying, I think one other nurse said here when I was reading through, too much panic, not enough disco. So something funny like that. Like you have to be thinking about your patient, because can you imagine wearing something like this? I can't imagine if being a nurse, I get the joke. So this is something that you will wear to a nurse, a function where all nurses are going to be, and then you get it. But your patient who is intubated or the family member of the patient who's intubated and sedated is probably not going to find that very funny. I would have to say they're not going to be very amused that you're like, that's what I prefer. And because it's very insensitive to your patient's condition. So there's one thing in wearing something that's cute and funny, too much panic, not enough disco, and then also, something to cheer you up. And I know life is so stressful. So with social media, it seems like the lines have been blurred, because everything, if you live on the wonderful world of TikTok, it would seem to be that anything goes and everything's okay. Yeah, it's okay if you don't need your job and you don't need your nursing license. It's great. Go right ahead and see what happens. But why would you want to come in? And I know, and I have to say that this respiratory therapist probably didn't even think about it, right? They just put it on, and they're like, the other nurses or the other healthcare professionals, they're gonna be amused by this. But your patient is not, and you're seeing patients all day. If you're a respiratory therapist in IMCU, where they are sedated and probably intubated. Oh my goodness. No, it's a no. I want to see what you guys think. Let me know what kind of things, like t-shirts and things that you've seen people wear, or things that you see healthcare professionals doing. That is not appropriate. That's just not appropriate. And maybe your healthcare professionals, things that, and you see your other healthcare professionals doing things, and you're like, hey, that could get you in trouble. That could get you in trouble. Like going, those nurses that worked in the labor and delivery, and they were making comments about their patients on TikTok. No. What they prefer, what you don't prefer. Or I think there was another one that worked in the OBGYN office, and she was like, they were taking this is so disturbing. I don't even know what possessed them to do this, but they were taking if you haven't seen it, I'll have to find it. Maybe I'll link it here and I'll drop it in. They were taking the wet spots from the women, like when you get your internal exam, there's gel, and the gel was on the bed, and they were taking pictures of the wet spots and showing the size of the wet spots and putting that on TikTok. Yeah, you want to get fired? And your patient, imagine the patients that have been to you are scrolling on TikTok and they see you doing this. Would you go back to that office? You're putting your facility at risk of getting sued, your doctor's office at risk of getting sued, and yourself at risk of getting sued. Fired, losing your license. For what? For a quick laugh? For a TikTok? For a viral TikTok? And a lot of these, because this is, the behavior is so reprehensible, some of these things have gone viral. But for the wrong reasons, obviously. Not appropriate. Yeah. And some other people said they were, like there's the one about the disco ball, or something about someone else had a shirt that said, I'm here, don't worry, I'm here to fully staff you, or something like that. Okay, cute, because we get it with the staffing shortage. But come on. Do not put on things on your badge, wear t-shirts that speak to your patient, especially about their condition that they might or will be sensitive about, because who likes to be in the hospital in the first place? And yeah, I don't know. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about this, but we got to use our scruples. We got to use our mind when we're using social media, especially in the context, and not just social media, when you're presenting, right? Because now you're wearing your badge. You're wearing your company's badge. And this is what you're saying to your patient. I prefer you sedated. Oh, thank you.
Oh, well.
So does that mean that you will purposely over sedate me to, and I'm just saying, I know exactly what this respiratory therapist meant. I don't think they meant there was no harm meant, but there was still, even though they meant no harm, doesn't mean you could not mean harm and still cause harm. So we need to be mindful of that. Anyhow, thank you for joining me on The Broken Shift. My name is Natalie. Not much more to say about this. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you've seen out there. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. Love ya.